Welcome to our on-bill financing application training for trade professionals. OBF provides qualified non-residential PG&E customers with a means to finance eligible energy efficiency projects. The interest is 0% and the minimum loan amount is $5,000. The maximum loan amount per customer premises or site is $100,000 or $250,000 for government agencies. The maximum loan amount per customer account is $4 million across multiple premises. And the maximum loan term is 60 months for business customers or 120 months for government agencies. This is an example of a project cost and payback calculation for an OBF project. As you can see here, OBF funds the net amount after rebates or incentives, and the monthly payments are set to be equal to the estimated energy savings. For some more detail, we can look at how the actual calculations of a loan are made. With a total cost of $10,000 and rebates of $2,500, we get a net cost for the project eligible for financing of $7,500. With estimated energy savings of 21,000 kWh and an average rate of 18 cents, we can do the following calculations to figure out the loan terms. First off, take the estimated energy savings multiplied by the average rate to get the annual cost savings from the project. You can take that net cost of the project divided by those annual cost savings to figure out the simple payback of the loan. When you do that, multiplied by 12 to get the payback in months and adding a month in order to ensure bill neutrality for the customer, you get a simple payback plus 1 month equaling 25 months. In the third step, you take that net cost and divide it by 25 months in order to determine the monthly payment amount at $300 per month. When you put that all together, your final loan terms would be a loan amount of $7,500, monthly payments of $300, and a term of 25 months. This is just a sample of qualified projects. For OBF, any project receiving a rebate or incentive for the measures included is eligible for financing. Now onto the application process for OBF. The stages of the OBF application start with a payment history screening. OBF reviews the customer's PG&E bill payment history to determine if they're eligible for financing. Once that's determined, we can move on to the pre-install review. At that stage, we review your proposal as well as the pre-install OBF application and provide a loan agreement to the customer detailing the estimated terms of their loan. Once that is signed and countersigned, we can provide permission to install the project. Once the project is complete, we do a post-install review before proceeding to check issuance. The first stage of the OBF application process is the payment history screening. The payment history screening is requested by a PG&E account representative on behalf of the customer. To get started, customers should contact their customer relationship manager or account rep to see if they're eligible for financing. If they don't know who that is, they can always call the Business Customer Service Center to have one assigned. Once the payment history screening is complete, the account rep will inform the customer and provide them with the OBF application number to be used in this application. Once the customer's account rep notifies them and the trade professional that they're eligible for financing, they can proceed with their pre-install review application. Always start with a fresh copy of the OBF application workbook to ensure there's no leftover data or formula errors. Once you have that, fill out the proposal and payee and signatory info tabs of the application. Submit that to obfprogram@pgne.com along with your itemized proposal. All files and the subject line of the email should include the OBF application ID number. Note, at this stage, the OBF team does not review products for rebate eligibility. You should be sure that all products included are eligible for rebates or incentives under those rebate or incentive programs. Once the OBF team receives your pre-install application, they will review it and follow up with any applicable questions. If the application is complete, they will proceed with generating a loan agreement to be provided to the customer via email. This loan agreement can be sent for electronic signature using eSign Live or sent on paper and signed and returned. Note that you may not begin installation of your project until PG&E countersigns the loan agreement and provides permission to install. This slide shows a high-level view of the pre-install application workbook. The application is divided into general project info, deemed measure info, site-specific savings, and calculated measure info. We'll now move to the actual application to walk through a demonstration. We are now reviewing the OBF application workbook. Note that it opens to the Instructions tab, which details all of this information. As noted before, when submitting a pre-install application, you should fill out the Proposal Info tab and the Payee and Signatory Info tab below. In the Proposal Info tab, we start with General Project Information. To start, we fill in the OBF application number, which will be provided once you complete your credit check. From there, we also fill in the applicable site address for the project so the team can verify that we have the right application number. From there, you should select the measure type. Deemed, meaning prescriptive rebates, calculated, meaning custom incentives, or both, meaning a project that includes both deemed and calculated. In this example, we'll be walking through a deemed project. You should then fill in your business name, contact name, and email address in case the team has any questions regarding your application. Fill in the total project costs as listed on your proposal and include a brief project description. You should also indicate whether your project includes any non-LED lighting, for instance, CFLs. Note that non-LED lighting cannot exceed 20% of the project costs. You may optionally fill in building type and year facility built to help us get an idea of the type of project you're doing. Lastly, in other notes, you can include any applicable notes that the team should be aware of when performing the review. For instance, if you're including site-specific savings calculations on a separate document, note that here so we know to look for it. Moving on to deemed measure information. In this section, you should fill out your deemed measures and it should match your proposal. Going back to our sample proposal, you can see we have 25 of these RAB lights as well as 55 of these troffers. In the application, we've listed the 25 units which are under measure code LT015, as well as the kilolumen value and proposal quantity of the LED troffers. Note that the measure type is downstream, meaning it's a standard prescriptive rebate. If it were midstream or upstream, you could select that from the dropdown. The rebate quantity corresponds to the unit type. In the case of the LT015, the rebate quantity is the same as listed on the proposal. In the case of the troffers, the rebate quantity is kilolumens, and so that value should go here. The proposal quantity, since it's different from the rebate quantity, is also listed. You can see here that the rebate quantity is multiplied by the rebate per unit to find the total rebate. OBF allows applications to include site-specific savings calculations to be used for the loan payback calculation. These may be submitted in the template right here or in a separate document so long as it has sufficient detail that we can determine how you arrived at the final numbers. In this example, we include annual operating hours of 4120, watts per unit of the existing measures, and watts per unit of the proposed measures. The application will automatically calculate the total annual kWh savings from those inputs. Once I've filled out my deemed measure information, I can also enter my calculated measure information, which is only the incentive application number if applicable. If you're not working on a custom project, this can remain blank and you can proceed to the next tab. On the Payee and Signatory tab, we include information on the payee for the loan and the authorized customer signatory that will be signing the loan agreement. On Payee Info, you can select contractor or customer, meaning who the loan payment will go to. After that, include the relevant address information for the check to be sent to. On authorized customer signatory, you should include the name, title, company, email address, and phone number of the customer that will be signing the loan agreement. Note that if you're working with somebody like a facilities manager, they may not be the appropriate person to list here. Instead, it should be somebody who is authorized to sign on a financial obligation for the customer's company. Once you've filled out the information in these first two tabs, you can submit to obfprogram@pge.com along with your itemized proposal. Remember to name this file with the application ID number and to name your proposal with that application ID number. Remember to include the application ID in the titles of all the files as well as the subject line of the submission email. Now that we've walked through the application workbook, let's finish up by talking about some additional notes. If your application includes manufacturer and distributor rebates or up and midstream rebates, be sure to include them in the Deemed Measures section. The rebate amount will automatically populate as $0 since it's assumed that this cost has already been factored in on your proposal. Here we have an example of a proposal or invoice that matches our requirements. You can see each measure is listed as a separate line item with the costs clearly broken out. This proposal also indicates the rebate type clearly on each measure, so it's easy for us to review. Once your project is installed, you'll submit for post-install review the same way you submitted for pre-install review. To do so, you'll fill out the Final Invoice Info tab on the application and submit it to obfprogram@pge.com along with your itemized invoice. As always, be sure to include the application ID number in the subject line and in all the attachment names. If there have been any scope or cost changes from the pre-install review, the OBF team will send the customer a loan modification agreement for signature prior to issuing the check for the loan. Loan charges are added to the customer's bill in the period following the check issuance. That's it for the OBF application process, but here are some things to remember. Invoices should always include a cost breakdown by measure. In other words, they should be itemized. Invoice costs should also match what's entered in the workbook and any supporting documents. You should not proceed with project install until you've received approval from OBF. The OBF team will notify you that you may proceed as soon as the agreement has been countersigned by PG&E. OBF pre-install review does not cover product eligibility. You should be sure that all products you're installing are eligible for rebates and incentives before proceeding. Finally, OBF funds may not be dispersed until all rebates and incentives have been approved. The OBF team targets the following turnaround times for processing your applications. For a payment history screening, expect the process to take about 3 business days, unless the customer doesn't have their matching tax ID in the billing system, which could take longer to update. For both pre- and post-install reviews, the target is about 5 business days. For pre- and post-install reviews, the target is 5 business days, but keep in mind that OBF can't complete the post-install review until all rebates or incentives are paid. If the scope is changed at the post-install review, OBF will send the customer a loan modification agreement for signature prior to moving forward with the check issuance. Check issuance should also take about 5 business days, but depending on the customer's billing cycle, it may take up to 10. Here you can see an example of OBF bill charges on a customer's bill. On the first page of the bill, or the account summary, you can see a line item for other programs and services with the monthly billing amount. Later on in the bill, other programs and services is broken down into energy efficiency retrofit loan, and you can see the monthly payment amount as well as the total outstanding balance. That's it for this OBF application process training. For more information, you can go to our website or contact us at obfprogram@pge.com. To start the process, you can always call the Business Customer Service Center to find out who the appropriate account rep is for your customer. Thank you for joining us and helping PG&E drive energy efficiency to build a better California.